23 states now have an adult obesity rate above 35%.
America's obesity has not doubled, it's tripled.
It's called one of the greatest public health challenges of our time. Our nation's mental health is in crisis.
Nearly 50 million Americans, almost 20%, are experiencing some sort of mental illness.
And a new report from the American Psychiatric Association finds that more Americans are feeling anxious.
Yes, we're definitely in a rough state right now, and a lot of people certainly are not living their best lives. And I'm definitely not judging because I used to be one of those people. Then about a year ago, I started implementing the 7 habits I'm about to share with you, and that's when everything changed for me. Let's dive in. Habit number 1, I stopped negotiating with myself. In the past, I would always plan to do something, like for example, maybe like go for a run in the morning. But then when the time came, I would have second thoughts and I would kind of talk myself out of it. Maybe it would be raining, maybe it would be a little colder than I expected, maybe I didn't get the best night's sleep, maybe I just didn't feel 100%. And the challenge was, some of these things were actually kind of rational. I would think to myself, maybe I'm coming down with something, I don't want to get a full-blown cold or get a flu or get something worse, so I should take a rest day, maybe try again tomorrow. And it sounded logical, it sounded like a reasonable argument, but I think I was really just talking myself out of doing something that I really should have done. And the irony of the whole thing is, when I'm not feeling my best and I go for a run, I actually feel better afterwards and I have more energy. I'm not ridiculous about it. If I am laid out and I have the flu, then I'll take a day off. But for the most part, when I'm just like a little bit under the weather, I go for my run. It's not easy, but one thing that's helped me is I'm willing to scale it back. So if I plan to go for a 3-mile run and I'm not feeling my best and I just want to go out and do the thing, I'll scale it back. I'll run 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it takes to get me out there. The key is that I continue to go through that motion of getting my running clothes on, getting my running shoes on, and heading out the door, and continue that habit of showing up, because that's really what's important. Habit number 2, I prioritize consistency over intensity. So I used to think that it would require some grand effort of getting out there and going to the gym and just hitting the weights really hard and getting like the best workout in. And that's the only way that I would ever possibly be able to improve my fitness. And the same thing for running. I'd have to go at least like 3, 5, 8 miles, something like that, to really improve my health. But the same thing would always end up happening. I would burn out. I had an all or nothing mentality, and that was the problem. If I miss a day or miss a couple days in a row especially, I just couldn't get back on, because going from 0 after you take a couple days off to going back into high intensity, it's just, there's too much friction and you're just not gonna do it. So what I started doing is I started setting the bar low. The key is to build the habit, do the repetitions, and that's how I'll become consistent. So for me personally, I wanted to get back into running. So I started with a 12-minute run, which was simple enough for me to do at the time. I allowed myself to go any pace that I wanted to go. The key is that I wanted to build the habit before I optimized the habit. I could do that later on, and it's worked out pretty well for me. So if you found yourself in the all or nothing mindset in the past and it failed, I highly suggest you give this a try. Habit number 3, I made time for reflection. So what this looks like for me is I have a morning journaling process. First thing I do in the morning after I grab my coffee is I sit at my desk with my notebook and I reflect on the previous day and I think ahead about what I'm gonna do in the current day. And sometimes I'll think about, what did I do wrong yesterday? Where could I improve? And sometimes it's like there's something very specific in my head that I'm trying to work out. Like for example, yesterday when I journaled, I really focused on slowing down, because I've noticed over the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling like I'm in a hurry all the time. And it actually worked, because yesterday I had it at top of mind all day and I would feel myself to start to rush. And I would be like, no, I'm slowing down today. And another example is last night I didn't eat quite as well as I normally do. and I'm just not quite feeling as well today as I normally do. So I wrote in my journal this morning about how I need to think about my diet and do better today. And it's really helped a lot because it's a constant way for me to continue to remember the person that I want to be and the person that I've set out to be with my goals. And it's like a check-in every day to see if I'm still executing on the systems that I set out for myself to accomplish my goals. Habit number 4, I started pausing before reacting. And this one has been huge. This may be the biggest game changer on this whole list. In the past, somebody would say something that would trigger me, and I would immediately have to just react with whatever came to me instinctually. And typically, I would say something mean to them, or just something that had the purpose of trying to get back at them, but wasn't gonna serve me. I was just gonna regret it later, and I was just gonna put a little extra strain on the relationship, and it just really didn't make any sense for me to do that. So now when I start feeling myself triggered, I take a pause and I think about what's the rational response here that's gonna serve me best. And typically once I take that pause, it's like enough time for me to get into that right brain state to where I'm focused on what's actually best versus that more primal, instinctual sort of mental state to where I just want to react and I feel very threatened and I just want to get out of that as soon as possible. And what I end up doing is I end up making it worse. Now, this has been huge for my mental, emotional health because these things don't drag on. And it's also improved my relationships greatly because when I look back on some of these things, I just realized they weren't a big deal at all. And they became a big deal because I reacted in a negative way. So if you have this problem as well, I highly suggest that you think about starting to take a pause before your initial reaction. Habit number 5, I started focusing on what I can control. In the past, I would overly focus on what other people were doing and how they were acting and how it was affecting me. But that is completely out of my control. Now I can influence it, but I can't control it. I can't force other people to act in a certain way. I could only focus on how I act and what I'm doing to be a positive influence on the situation. Also, in regards to goals, I stopped focusing so much on outcome goals and started focusing more on process goals. Outcome goals are where we're trying to get, and they're good when we're trying to set out that initial vision. But once we've set out the vision, we need to think more about process goals. And these are the daily activities that we need to do to achieve that goal. Because the outcome is out of our control. The things that are in our control are the activities that we do every day to get there, and that's what we need to focus on. For example, with this YouTube channel, I can't control the outcome. I can't control how well my videos actually do, and I can't control how fast my channel grows. All I can control is putting in the effort every day to make the best videos that I can and continue to learn and continue to grow. And hopefully one day it'll happen, but that's out of my control, so I really don't focus on that. Habit number 6, I decided to start demanding the best of myself. There's this Epictetus quote that I really like. It goes something like this: how much longer are you gonna wait to demand the best of yourself? I've actually made this quote kind of like a little mantra. Whenever I'm feeling like I don't wanna do something that I know I should be doing, I'll say to my head, and it helps me to actually move forward in doing that thing. Habit number 7, I started showing up even when I didn't feel like it. In a lot of ways, showing up on the bad days is even more important than showing up on the good days. It's a little bit easier as the habits become more ingrained, but when you're starting out with a new habit, it's really important to continue to show up, even if, like I said before, you have to set the bar low, and maybe it's a little below your normal standards, but showing up is what really matters. It's the reps that actually make the habits stick. I've actually done a mental reframe on this, and I think about how important it is to embrace the hardships, because it's the hardships in life that ultimately build resilience. So when there's a day that I'm just not feeling the best, or the weather's not great, and I decide to go out for my run, I just think of it as being like, oh, this is a good thing. This is helping me because it's helping me to grow and become a more resilient person. And that reframe actually helps me a lot, because when I start having doubts about whether I should go or not, I'm like, no, I should definitely go, because this is even more important than the days when I feel like going, because this is what's going to actually make the difference. None of these habits changed my life quickly. They weren't flashy, they weren't dramatic, but I never stopped doing them. And that's what made all the difference. You don't need some big breakthrough. You need a few habits you're willing to repeat long enough to let them work. If any of these habits stood out to you, my advice is to not to try to implement them all at once. Pick one and let it become consistent, and then optimize it later. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, I definitely recommend checking out the video above, where I dive in to the core foundational habits that have the biggest impact on my life.